Good afternoon and welcome to the Office of Early Childhood's webinar, The Whole is Greater Than the Sum of the Parts, the Impactful Presence of Fathers and Father Figures in a Child's Development. Passing it over to Diana, who will give interpretation instructions.
Bueno, mi nombre es Diana Reyes y daré instrucciones sobre cómo acceder a los servicios de traducción para el seminario web. En la parte inferior de la pantalla, haga clic en el globo terráqueo que dice traducción y luego seleccione español o SP. A continuación, puede silenciar el idioma original. Gracias por acompañarnos.
Thank you, Diana. And now passing it over to the Commissioner of the Office of Early Childhood, Beth Bai.
Thank you, Lorna, and thank you, Diana. Lorna, thanks for all your work putting this great seminar together. It's so wonderful to be together, and I see that we have more than 110 participants, so there's a lot of interest in this topic of fatherhood. And I couldn't help but reflect on my own father as I prepared to think about my introductory comments. And I'm one of those super lucky people whose father was a big influence in my life. My mother had a lot of challenges, and I was one of 7 children. And he put us all in the car and took us to his basketball practice. He was a coach, and he brought us everywhere, sort of. And he just had this calm, gentle spirit, and also really clear about how you treat other people. He didn't put up with selfishness, and gratitude was very important to him, as was community. And I just think of the model that he left as a teacher and coach for us, but so many people he touched. And working in early childhood, I've worked with almost all women most of my career. And I just see in an early childhood classroom, when you have a man who's a teacher, how the kids are drawn to that energy. And, it takes mothers and fathers and grandparents and friends, raising children takes everybody. But I'm really excited that today we're going to spend some time talking particularly about fatherhood. And I want to give a shout out to Jen Wilder from OEC, who's just been a champion for OEC, sort of making sure we reorient and include fathers and fatherhood, the idea of fatherhood in all of our programs in our very female-dominated world. You do need to be intentional about that. Super excited to hear from the keynote and the panel and a lot of amazing fathers here today. But my colleague Jody Hillilly is with me. Jody is a social worker, and Jody, it's so nice to introduce you. When I think of you, I think of leadership, because you're an incredible leader yourself of DCF, but you support the future leaders by developing programs to support people and agencies who want to be leaders themselves. And not only that, you are a wonderful friend and mentor to all your fellow commissioners. We know you're there for us. And if we forget, you tell us every time we see you. Just call, you'll say, just call. And I know this fatherhood work is near and dear to your heart, because you see, and I've seen firsthand from your work as a social worker, caseworker, and now as commissioner, the impact that fathers have on children's lives and how they can be a real positive force in the lives of children. So I'm going to ask you to welcome folks as well. Great to see you.
Well, this is going to be, in my mind, a straight up love fest, because the feelings are mutual, my friend and colleague, and Beth Bai. You are a true inspirational leader. If there ever was a leader that many people really look up to, it is you, Beth Bai. And thank you for supporting this initiative around fathers, because it is so critical to the development of children at an early age. And I love how the Office of Early Childhood is taking this conversation on in this context. And I too would like to start how you started. And I don't know if you all could see this, but that's my daddy. Isn't he cute? He's now deceased. He died in 2020, and he was ready to die at 94 years old. And let me know me without him. And I have the same story that you have, Beth, in that my dad was everything. When I didn't believe in myself, my dad believed in me. He was not a perfect man, certainly had a lot, things going on, but there's nothing like the love of a dad, and or a dad figure. I think, which is this is what this is all about. And so I come with firsthand experience of understanding the the need for dad and dad figures in the lives of kids. So I'm so critically I'm so excited about what is happening here today under the leadership of your team, Commissioner Bai, Lorna, and all the staff all the employees and leaders who work to put this together. And my goodness, did you and a keynote speaker? And let me tell you, I know Brandon McGee personally, and when I tell you Father of the Year in his personal life, everything he stands for. So listen to everything Brandon McGee says because he's absolutely amazing. And then the panelists that you have, I have to brag on my own Anthony Gay, who, by the way, the significant, but felt like fatherhood was so significant that we established a position for fatherhood. And Anthony Gay occupies that inaugural position. I don't believe leaders should be talking. I believe leaders should be walking. And so Anthony epitomizes fatherhood in his personal life, his professional life. And so I'm so excited you all get to hear from him because he's absolutely positively amazing. And the same thing for the other panelists. You can't get any better than Abdul. Abdul has been doing this work for long before it became popular. And I'm sure the other panelists are coming to. I've heard of, obviously Doug Edwards and others who are going to be participating. Thank you all, dads. I am one of 5 children, and I have all brothers. So I admire, respect, and honor you men for what you're about to say. Y'all, I'm going to get out of the way so y'all can enjoy this amazing, amazing discussion that's about to happen.
Thank you so much, Jody. Great to have you here. And now I get to introduce Brandon McGee, who is the CEO of the Social Equity Council. I've known Brandon since he came into the House of Representatives. He was a hotshot new legislator from Hartford when I first met him, and just such an eloquent speaker. Brandon, whenever I see you speak, I think I got to go take speaking classes because you know how to get a room going. So as a legislator, you focused on a lot of things, but housing was a real passion of yours. And then you went on to be Deputy Commissioner of Housing, where you and Commissioner Mosquero Bruno made incredible strides for families in Connecticut. Having a place to live helps fathers be better and mothers be better. I always say in our house, when the bills are being paid and there were big challenges, the parents were not always the best parents they could have been. Things were very tight and quiet. And so when you get a family housing, you help that father and mother in ways that are hard to describe. And now your work at the Social Equity Council is really working on making things more fair and making sure that the communities who have been disadvantaged over the years and impacted by mass incarceration for minor offenses of drugs that are now legal, that they make sure that that is done equitably. And it's not an easy job because you're managing high expectations and big challenges. That's sort of like being a father. We all have these high expectations of ourselves as parents, and we do our very best. We don't always live up to our favorite moments, but a lot of expectations, a very challenging job. And according to Jody, you're the best. I haven't seen you be a father, but apparently Jody has. So, but we are so grateful you're taking time. Your job is so demanding right now. You're responding to so many constituencies, trying to make a difference. But we're grateful that you're here trying to help us spread the word about the importance of fatherhood in programming and just the importance of fatherhood, how it takes a whole village, right, Lorna? I think that's the theme. So thank you for being here today, and I look forward to hearing you.
Awesome. Thank you so very much, Commissioner Bai, Commissioner Hale Lilly, And special shout out to Lorna and the entire team that made this day possible. We need to have one of these every day. I feel, oh, I'm good. Y'all gave me my energy booster, motivation, all of the above. But I'm really grateful to be here. I also want to just give a special shout out to my fraternity brother, social worker, and strong advocate for fatherhood initiatives. As already mentioned, Abdul, thank you so very much for the work that you do. You continue to and being an example to many of us younger fathers, trying to balance work, being a husband, and also being a father and community leader. So thank you. Again, good afternoon to each and every one of you. It's a joy to be here with you, reflecting on something deeply personal to me, and that is the impact of fathers and father figures. Our theme today is already eloquently shared by many of the aforementioned speakers. The whole, from my perspective, is greater than the sum of the parts. And it isn't just a concept. For me, it's truth lived and witnessed. And so I just want to take a few moments just to share with you a little insight of Brandon McGee's life and my makeup. And so growing up in Hartford's North End, I was raised, we refer to as a place full of history, hustle, and hope. And like many families there, we faced challenges. And by the way, I didn't know I was actually poor until I got older and realized my mother and my father held it together. But I also am of the mindset that our community was community care. Statistically, over 38% of households in Hartford County fall into the ALICE category. We're all familiar with ALICE: asset, limited, income constrained, and employed. These families work hard, but don't earn enough to afford basic needs like housing, childcare, and transportation. Frankly, weighs heavily on fathers and father figures trying to show up consistently for their children. In my home, like many others in our neighborhood, support came from a network. While my father faced his own journey, I was surrounded by men in my church, school, and community who showed me what presence looked like, showed me that manhood was more than being tough. It was being there. And so bridging two worlds through education, I had the distinct honor of participating in a program called Project Concern, better known as Open Choice. I was bused from Hartford to the Canton Public School System. That experience, boy, I tell you, it opened my eyes to the duality of opportunity and inequality. In Connecticut, there's a 30-point achievement gap in reading and math between low-income students and their higher-income peers. That's not just a number, y'all. It's a generational barrier. But programs like Project Concern or Open Choice gave students to academic environments with better resources and expectations. And being one of a few Black students in a majority white school, it wasn't easy. I often felt like I was code switching just to survive. But it made me adaptable. It also made me deeply committed to bringing those same opportunities back to my peers in the North End of Hartford. So not just academically, but emotionally. And so when I needed guidance, y'all, God sent me men who stepped in, and two stand out in particular. And I want to share with you two men who really, really have had and or rather been instrumental in my entire being and what you see today. First, I refer to him as my dad. I should have started off my biological father, one who married my mother and was married over 30 plus years, passed away years ago on the day of my graduation from college. And I'll tell you a unique story at the end. But this man that I refer to as my father, his name is Pastor Marshall B. Muntz. And he's the pastor of the Citadel of Love located in Hartford's North End. His leadership taught me that service is love in action, and that real men don't just show up on Sunday, they show up on Monday too. And at every stage of my growth, my father, Pastor Muntz, reminded me to lead with integrity and purpose. Then there's my other mentor, my big brother, somewhat as like my BFF, don't tell him I said it, June Archer, a former artist turned entrepreneur and community builder. June didn't just talk about success, he showed me how to walk in it. He helped me to recognize that being present in a young man's life could mean the difference between potential and purpose. So these men didn't just influence me, they helped. So I often say mentorship is a form of modern fatherhood. I'll say that again. Mentorship is a form of modern fatherhood. That belief led me to do several things in my life, and I'll share a couple with you today. I co-founded an organization during my time at the Hartford Job Corps Academy, located in Hartford's South End. DIESEL, those acronyms stand for Developing Individual Excellence While Surpassing Environmental Limitations. It was a leadership academy that offered young people an opportunity, young men in particular, from Hartford, to be in a safe space. And currently, I serve as board chair for the Ascend Mentoring Program and president of the BSL Educational Function. Again, where we support boys who, like me, needed men to look up to. And so among many awards I've received throughout my lifetime are worth mentioning, but when I received the National Excellence in Mentoring Award, it wasn't about accolades. It was about acknowledging that every hour spent listening to a young man's fears or helping him tie is building his bridge to adulthood. So eventually, mentorship called me, or I should say, I don't even know if this is a word, y'all, but menteeship, being mentored by other people, called me into public service. I wanted to change the world. I wanted to change not just the lives of individuals, but the systems that hold them back. And so as a state legislator, I prioritized, as Commissioner Bai shared with you, housing access, because no child should wonder where they'll sleep at night. Reentry programs, because fathers returning from incarceration deserve a fair shot at rebuilding their lives and relationships. Workforce equity, because dignity starts with employment. And too often citizens, many of them fathers, face invisible cages long after leaving prison. We created laws alongside Senator Bai or Commissioner Bai, laws to remove barriers to housing, jobs, and civic participation. That's just not policy, y'all. That's healing. And so today, I serve as the chief of the Social Equity Council, ensuring that the cannabis industry, not limited to, in Connecticut, benefits the communities most harmed by the war on drugs. And let us not forget that war disproportionately targeted Black and brown men, many of them fathers. Generations of fathers were separated, destabilized, and punished for addiction instead of supported through it. Now we're investing cannabis tax revenue into education, reentry support, and entrepreneurship in the very communities once criminalized. That is what we call restorative justice. That is rebuilding families throughout the state of Connecticut. And all this work has one ultimate motivation from my perspective, my daughters, Silver and Bailey. And she will tell you it's not the color silver, it's my mama's maiden name. And it's spelled Sylver. Being their father is my proudest role. Every bedtime story, every school drop off, every daddy look at this, every daddy can I, every daddy, it all matters. It grounds me completely. And one day my daughter looked up and asked, "Daddy, what do you do?" I said, "Help people." She paused and said, "Good. I want to help people too." That moment, y'all, that's legacy. That's impact. That's the ripple effect of being present around your children and around your family. And so lastly, I told you I wasn't going to be long. Although they gave me 20 to 25 minutes, I know time is of the essence and brevity is powerful. And so let me leave you with this. And this is specifically to the fathers listening. Your presence is power, so never underestimate it. To the father figures, that's coaches, pastors, mentors, you are lifelines. Keep showing up. Keep fighting the good fight. And to all of us in this space today, let's continue building a village. Let's invest in policies, programs, and people who pour into children. Because a child raised by a community of care, that's a child that is unshakable. So again, how we started is how I'll end. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts because no one person raises a child, but all of us can shape their future. Thank you all so much for listening. Let's keep building.
My, Brandon. Boy, you're leaving us wanting so much more, but that's a beautiful thing because that highlights how powerful your message was. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You can see the reactions that persons are giving. Thank you so much by sharing. Thank you so much by leading by example. And thank you for helping to build generations of future leaders. Thank you, Brandon. And with that, we now will transition to a brief video talking more about the important role that fathers play in a child's life.
Welcome to an insightful exploration of the critical role fathers play in a child's growth. I'm your host, Lara from the Lardy Wellness Group, and in this video, we'll delve into why a father's impact is vital, the unique aspects of their role, the influence on mental health, and ways fathers can support their child's growth. Understanding the role of a father in child development. When it comes to child development, the role of a father is often overlooked. Research shows that fathers contribute significantly to emotional, social, and academic development. Their complementary parenting style, emphasis on independence, and modeling of behavior and values uniquely shape a child's growth. Fathers offer a distinct perspective, engaging in activities that promote physical and cognitive development while fostering emotional resilience. Impact of active father involvement on mental health. Active father involvement has a profound impact on a child's mental health. Research indicates that when fathers are actively engaged, children experience a sense of security, stability, and emotional support. This active involvement correlates with reduced rates of anxiety and depression in children. Fathers provide a crucial support system, offering a safe space for emotional expression and imparting essential coping mechanisms. Positive self-esteem, a byproduct of active father involvement, guards against mental health challenges. Ways to support your child's growth as a father. As a father, supporting your child's growth involves various strategies. Being present and engaged, fostering open communication, setting clear boundaries, encouraging independence, being a positive role model, and supporting their educational journey are key. These actions contribute to a child's overall development, building a foundation for success and fulfillment. Navigating challenges and myths about fatherhood. Fatherhood comes with its challenges, such as balancing work and family life. Finding a healthy balance is crucial, emphasizing quality time with children. Additionally, fathers should challenge societal expectations, embracing their emotions, and actively participating in caregiving activities. Surrounding oneself with a supportive network, engaging in parenting workshops, and seeking professional guidance can help navigate challenges and misconceptions about fatherhood. Consequences of absentee fathers on child's development. Research consistently highlights the significant consequences of absentee fathers on a child's development. Children without involved fathers are more prone to behavioral problems, emotional challenges, academic struggles, and social difficulties. Recognizing and addressing these consequences is vital, with support systems and therapy playing key roles in mitigating the impact of an absent father. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of the critical role fathers play in a child's growth. By actively participating, you contribute to your children's well-being and lay the foundation for a fulfilling future. Thank you for watching this video. Please like it and subscribe to our channel. You can also click the cards on the screen to watch more of our educational videos.
Thank you. So hopefully you're able to take some nuggets from that video, and certainly we've heard powerful messages already supporting that. And now we will continue to hear powerful words and messages as we start our panel discussion. But we first must introduce our wonderful facilitator of our panel discussion, and that is none other than Doug Edwards. Doug Edwards is founder and director of Real Dads Forever, but he is someone that not only talks about the importance of fathers and fathering and mentors, but he lives it as well. And he is someone that many people have come across, are inspired by, and he is certainly someone who leads by example. I had the pleasure of first coming across Mr. Edwards years ago and starting with PLTI, and have always admired him then and continue to do so now. So we are so honored to have Mr. Doug Edwards with us, and we'll pass the baton, or the microphone rather, over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Lorna. I thought we were going to hear from Jennifer first, but
And you know what? You are correct. And I'm just so absorbed by all that has taken place. And Jennifer, please charge it to my head and not my heart.
Thank you, because I thought, I was going to have to follow up behind Brandon, and I got the video as a reprieve. And then you announced Doug, and I really got nervous. And so if Jennifer can add my quick little slide up there, I'll shepherd us through some of the efforts and energy that the Office of Early Childhood is putting into this fatherhood space. And so, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us, as this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. You are talking to the baby of 3 girls and a definite daddy's girl. I don't care that he has grandchildren. I am the baby. And so with that being said, I've had an amazing experience being fathered and co-parenting with an amazing guy. And so the task at hand, though, is what is the Office of Early Childhood doing in this space? And for years, we were early adopters into understanding and thinking about fatherhood as an intentional effort. And so, what's the task at hand right now is intentionally prioritizing the engagement and the support of dads across all OEC programs. I sit in Family Support Division, supporting the implementation of home visiting programs across the state of Connecticut. And so we do direct services, or the programs that we fund do direct services in the home, in and around parent education. And so the work that we do around fatherhood is really specific and direct and intentional. But what we're looking to do is to expand that work. All of the divisions are thinking of fathers, are doing work, but we want to take a more holistic approach to how we approach fatherhood. And so when we think about fatherhood, we think about the partnerships that we have to forge, right? And so we have those dads, father figures. There are a couple that are on the call that are enrolled or are actually members of the parent cabinet. I sit along with Commissioner Bai on the Fatherhood Initiative, which is a statewide group of folk who at leadership level are working to be intentional about making sure that fathers are in the role of fatherhood is uplifted in all of the various divisions of state work, state services. And so we're going to be looking at identifying key stakeholders as we move forward with the OEC's bigger plans to intentionally think about fathers, right? So we're going to be coming up with some goals, objectives. We're going to be planning, and we're going to be dreaming big. We're going to be doing some evaluation and thinking about it and meeting on a quarterly basis. Really excited about the training that we'll be doing. And historically, the training that our division in support services has done. We've had the privilege and the pleasure of working with all of the guys that are on the panel. Doug, Anthony, in some ways. We've also been able to work with Abdul, and super excited about rolling out a training constellation of training that will be offered not only to our family support division, but also to all the other divisions in the OEC. So really looking at some evidence-based training, like the manhood tree that is developed by Abdul Muhammad. Really excited about bringing that in. Doug Edwards has an amazing curriculum around co-parenting. And then we also have some awesome lunch and learns. So look forward to that. All those who are on the line, if you're on the line, then you're on our listserv, and you will be able to be privy to all of those things. Really looking at our father spaces and how we interact with fathers, and seeing if they're father-friendly spaces. Are the physical locations welcoming to dads? Are our policies have dads in mind? Do our applications even include spaces to record the father figures that are involved? What about our web pages, the flyers that we hand out, trainings, events? Are they events that would attract dads and other father figures? Thinking about what that family engagement looks like, authentic father engagement. And so including dads in the planning of those engagement opportunities, looking at our policy development, mentioning that we have a gentleman or two from our parent cabinet who impact policy in a real way here at the Office of Early Childhood. Having representation of men is critical. Thinking about the direct support that happens in all of our division, from birth to 3, home visiting, childcare licensing, and then, forging and figuring out opportunities to build a real dad community within the agency. And then forwardly looking, division level, like having division leads in the Office of Early Childhood think about their intentional work around fatherhood, and then trickling that up to the agency level, and then thinking about our partners in the community, right? So all of the agencies and the organizations that we collaborate with, touch out there in the state of Connecticut, and how we can bridge the gap and turn this fatherhood thing into a fire. And so those are just like quick highlights. I wanted to keep it brief and blessed and move on so that you guys can hear who you came here to hear, and it's from some of the dads that are going to be participating in the panel. And so I will stop there and turn it over to Lorna to hand it back over to Doug.
Wonderful. Jennifer, thank you so very much. And again, my apologies for the error of the mind. You are so influential in supporting and uplifting the importance of this within the Office of Early Childhood and throughout Connecticut. And just so appreciative of all of the work that you are doing. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
And so, with the wonderful work that you're doing, which certainly has helped to inspire today's webinar, we'll once again reintroduce Mr. Doug Edwards. Again, the same words, the same feeling, same sense of affection applies a few minutes ago as it does now. So, Mr. Edwards, passing it off to you to facilitate our wonderful panel discussion. And we know that you will introduce our panelists as well. Thank you so very much.
Oh, you're quite welcome, Lorna, and thanks for that introduction. And you said Mr. Edwards. I'm going to push it a little bit and have you call me Doug, just like you have me call you Lorna. I got in a little trouble yesterday because of that, because I called you doctor, and I certainly appreciate all the hard work that went into your getting your doctorate, along with quite a few others over there at OEC. So thank you. Thank you again. So we'll take a minute to introduce the rest of the panel. I am greatly favored and blessed to have Abdul along with Anthony Gay and Josh to have a little conversation with them, which I'm honored to facilitate. We've had a great start already, and it's certainly wonderful to have so many folks who are involved in this effort in support of children. And so it's always been a great connection between the Office of Early Childhood and the Connecticut Fatherhood Initiative. And that's as a result of the memorandums of understanding that we've put together, which is really a great framework for getting fatherhood done with all our state agencies. I don't know if there's another state that has such an incredible framework of connection with the agencies. So we've had some interesting ideas that have been put forward. I loved Beth's conversation about her dad. She called him a calm and gentle teacher, and those are some of the facets that we love to see in fathers. And Commissioner Jody said, "My dad believed in me." Another wonderful expression. And then Brandon talked about manhood more than being tough. It's more than being tough. And I also appreciated that art. Looked like children's art behind Brandon. So we got the kids involved in this as well. So why don't we take a couple of minutes and do some introductions. And Abdul, would you like to start?
My name is Abdul Rahman bin Mohammed. I'm the Executive Director of My People Community Services. And I'm looking forward to being a part of this panel today.
Very good. And you are a father, I happen to know.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. I have three wonderful children, Amina, Amira, and Amir. And I have my grandson, Cairo. So, you know, fatherhood is forever. You know, once you get in it, there's no getting out.
Very good. And next up will be Anthony Gay.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good to see you, Doug, Abdul, and other panelists. Thank you for having me. I'm Anthony Gay. I'm the Director of Fatherhood Services for the Department of Children and Families. I am a father as well, father figure to many, I would say, as well. I have my youngest is 10, which is Noah. My oldest is my daughter, Precious, which is 30. And you're all like, wow, there's a 20-year gap, but there is a 20-year gap. And I also have a son who passed away some years ago. So I consider myself a father of three because he lives in my heart. So he's still here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And Josh?
Hello, hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Josh Vaughn. I am a alumnus of the OEC Parent Cabinet. I am a father of 5. My oldest is 16. I have another daughter who is 12, a 5-year-old, and one that would be 4, and then my son Junior, he'll be 3 in August. And pleasure to be on a panel with these great gentlemen who I'm inspired by.
So while you're still there, Josh, what do you think is important why do you think it's important for fathers to be part of their children's life as they grow up?
Mm. Uh, the role model of a father is something that it cannot be replaced, nor could it be avoided. It's a space that needs to be filled because the place of a father is just something as we've heard it from different testimonials today. It goes with you, it follows you past all of life's different journeys, and it follows you for the rest of your life. And so the facet of a father is important. It's important.
And what do you enjoy most about that, those relationships?
Oh man, what I enjoy most of the relationships is that each one is unique. So each one of my relationship with my children are unique. It's beautiful in its own way, and I get to cultivate it, nurture it daily, and so it never stops. It keeps going, continuous. It's a continuous race, if you will, and so I love it. It's rewarding.
Is it all good all the time?
No, not by no means. Every day has its challenges, but it's opportunities for me to grow, to learn, to prosper, to stretch. And so I learn more about myself as a man, um, more than I am as a father. And so I'm grateful for the challenges that arise.
Beautiful. I like that idea of that continuous journey where we keep learning. Even after the kids are grown and out of the house, like my five have been. Um, I have five children. My son, who was in the middle of the five, passed away recently, just before Christmas. He was on a plane trip, on a business trip to London, and he had a heart attack on the plane. So he
So sorry.
left his wife and three grown children. But that passion is still there. The relationships transcend any kind of difficulties that we have, and with the love and support of a lot of friends and family, it helps us to get through. And that continues even if we don't have a loss. We still need that kind of support from friends and family. We don't need to do it all by ourselves. Anthony, you want to talk a little bit about why you think it's important to be part of your children's life?
So, you know, so first and foremost, my condolences, Doug. Um, so, I think it's extremely important, right? So most people who know me see me as being very, some say stoic, or, some people would say um, not as outgoing as others. But I think, and I start off by saying that because the importance of being a father and a role model for your children, you have to learn to stretch yourself, right? You have to stretch yourself to show them um, all aspects of emotion. So I have to be silly in times where I don't really want to be silly. I have to, do the jokes when I have to share in the laughter. There's times where I have to be serious. There's times where I have to show emotions because my presence in my child's life will, in those who I'm a father figure to, I think I help shape and mold what they can become, right? The ones that they love and they look up to, oftentimes those are the ones that they model themselves after, right? So being a father and a father figure, that's an irreplaceable role in children development. Now, I won't make this about the work that we do, but in the work that we do, that's what it's all about. That's why we want fathers to be present because we know the roles that they play in the overall child development, creating that sense of security, identity. Our commissioner, I've heard our commissioner say this 100 times, like the confidence that she has, the way that she walks into a room is a direct result of what her father poured into her, right? So it's the role of a father is extremely important in what our children ultimately become academically, around their self-esteem, the emotional resilience that they build up. All of those things are critical factors, and I think the presence of a father really teaches children that they're worthy
Yeah,
of giving and love.
excellent, excellent. Thank you. And Abdul, could you talk about that too? What you enjoy most about being a father and why it's important to be part of their development?
Sure. Yeah, I actually think being a father is probably one of the most important things I'm ever going to do in my life. I
Hmm.
think it's like it's probably like the reason I'm here to bring these three children I have and my grandson and whoever else is going to come in the future, to the next level. Allow them to be able to be the great people they're going to become. I just think that I love being a father. Seeing my children grow up, we're at a phase of our life now where my son is about 3 months away from going to college. So he's my youngest, and it's like in a few months he's gonna be gone. And for a while, me and my wife were talking about, okay, we're gonna be empty nesters. Maybe we'll get a smaller house or something. And then we had the realization that they're coming back. They're not gonna go live their lives. So we need to keep this house because in 3-4 years they'll all be back. And so it's just and that's why I started saying fatherhood is forever. It's a job that a position a purpose that I'm gonna have for the rest of my life. And just being able to see them go through these different phases and become the people they're gonna become, and knowing that I had a little bit to do with that is very exciting to me, and just makes me wake up every day and want to go try to be the best person I can be, so that they can always have like someone that they could say, well, like what I did with my father. Whenever I couldn't figure out what to do, I just said, you know what, I'm just gonna do what he did, and it turns out okay most of the time. So I just think that fatherhood is the best.
Oh, I loved your dad. I met him very early on in this whole fatherhood journey, and he was just a passionate guy. And his relationship with the Connecticut Fatherhood Initiative and the work that we do. So fatherhood starts, we know now through science and through brain imaging studies and through 3D imaging of a fetus inside a mom, we know the importance of a relationship starting very early, even in utero. And fatherhood starts even before that because we get exposed to the presence or absence of a father or others that are we're in a relationship with that serve as a father for us. But it starts really early to begin to cultivate those kind of sensibilities is so important. Our attachment to our unborn child, our attachment to the mother of our child, to be able to think carefully about what kind of influence we're going to have. It starts very, very early. What would you say about that?
Yeah, I think that I'm big on dreaming, and like when you find out you're about to have a child, you start dreaming. What are they gonna do with their life? Who are they gonna be? And how can I help them to get there? And so even though they haven't even, had their first breath in this world, you have all these ideas about what you want to do and what you want to see from them. I'm gonna go to the football games, I'm gonna go to the basketball games, I'm gonna help them, maybe me and my daughter might cook a cake together or something. All these ideas about what fatherhood could be. And I think, as me, I was a very young father. I had my first child when I was 20 years old. And I was very scared, like, oh man, I'm about to have a kid. I don't know what to do. And what I realized is that I just gotta put my best foot forward, just be there for her, show up when she needs me. I learned that you gotta reach into that pocket and give her some money. All the things, because the thing is that I tell my daughters especially, I don't want them to have to feel like they have to depend on someone else. When in doubt, come to me. I'm always going to be here. I'm your backup plan. I'm your person. So I just think that, being involved in their lives and just from the beginning, I always tell people it's like an amazing thing to have a child. Like,
Yeah,
just the process that you have to go through to impregnate somebody,
yeah,
it's like it's almost impossible. And so like I think that people take for granted how big of a task, how big of a job fatherhood actually is. And so like just the idea that you were able to make something that is the size of the top of a pin to impregnate a woman, and then the child comes out healthy and strong, and they go from being a little baby to being like my son is 6'2", 230 pounds, and he's towering over me. And so just that whole process, I mean, it's just an amazing thing. And
Yeah.
I think we just gotta I think the more we can get fathers, young fathers, all fathers to just dive into it more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. So yeah, they start out as, tiny little egg and a tiny little sperm, and before you know it, they're riding a bike and talking back and asking for the car keys. And it happens so very fast. And sometimes we don't get a chance to just sit and look at them and wonder. That's important, kind of fills up your soul to think about the journey that they've taken to get here. And now they're here. And yeah, so I have four girls, and and my wife, the between myself and my son, the four girls and my wife, they kind of raised us and gave us an idea of what womanhood was like. We didn't get a whole lot of chance to talk very much, but it was all good. Their kind of support, their view, their point of view, very important to the development of men. Coming back to you, Anthony, what would you say about those early developmental challenges and considerations that we need to have around children?
Yeah, I would say very similar to Abdul. So I go back and I think about particularly, I was fortunate because I had older children and I had my older children obviously when I was much younger, but I was far more seasoned and prepared when I had my son Noah,
Hmm.
right? So I understood the value of being and remaining present. And one of the things that I regret is with I kind of just talk about family a little bit. Abdul talked about his father. My father was my hero, but my father worked two full-time jobs and a part-time job. So I would see him when it was time to go to school in the morning and it was time to go to bed. So he was the provider. And when I became a father, I thought that's what I needed to do. So there's so much in life that I missed out on with my older kids because my thought was when I'm not here, they need to be taken care of. And then when my son passed away, it hit me like a ton of bricks. At his funeral, people were talking about him and they were sharing things that I didn't even know because I was so busy working. I had missed so much of his accomplishments and what he had become as a result of trying to be the provider. So
Hmm.
this time around, it's going to be different. So I've never missed an appointment. I go to all the PTA meetings. I sit on the board at his school. I try to do as many drop-offs and pickups as I can because I want him to know I'm always going to be here in
Hmm.
every circumstance, in every situation. And I can see how he's grown because he's a very reserved young man. And but I can see the confidence that he has when I'm present.
Hmm.
What his teacher sees is different from what I see when he's with me. And
Yeah.
I understand that that's a result of him being with me and me building up his confidence. So, to Abdul's point, we have to be present. We have to be there. We have to stay there. And we have to think about what's really, really important. And I know this will probably come up. We use this phrase. First time I ever heard it was from you, Doug, presence over present, right? We have to be present. And I always got to give props to Doug. I call Doug the father of fatherhood in Connecticut, right? So I kind of that's what Doug is. But I heard that phrase and it stuck with me. We have to be present, as Abdul stated. We could give money, give money, give money, but that's just material things. We have to give up ourselves. We have to give up our heart. We have to be there. And I hope that fathers here and other fathers in the community will remember those words that we really have to be present from the beginning and forever.
Yeah.
Because there is no end. It's from the beginning and forever.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. And coming back to you, Josh, what do you think is the most common misconception about fathers in general?
I would say that they don't actually care. Like,
Hmm.
I think a lot of times when I'm even the administrative part of it, medical doctors, providers, I think of it as the placement for fathers aren't always prioritized. And it's almost like, oh, he's at work, or he's busy, he's tied up, or we'll just call mom automatically. And
Hmm.
so the perception for that has really resonated strongly with me. A lot of times it's a assumption that it's like, hey, I'll just call your wife. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. My flexibility is more available than my wife's. So echoing to a lot of what Abdul and what Anthony has said is that, being available, like that's me. Most times I see my kids leave the house. By the time they're getting off the school bus or even picking them up from daycare, it's me. My wife has more of the demanding job, and so she's unable to make everything, but I'm available. I don't miss anything, no PPT meetings, no open houses. I volunteer at the schools. So I think the availability, and I think that the intentionality, I think that a lot of times um, it's almost like dad doesn't care, but dad wasn't notified. It's almost like dad, this is something he'd be interested, but the question was never asked. And so I think that's a lot of the assumption. And that goes, I think it's something that is missing, the intentionality for fathers. What is something that they're really interested in? But giving them the option, the availability to share if they are or if they aren't.
Excellent. Yeah, good. So I did some work at Hartford Hospital and at St. Francis Hospital, and we had some lunchtime discussions with some OBGYN doctors, and the conversation was around how do you support dads after they've lost a child, immediately after, before they leave the hospital. And some of them came right out and told me, I don't say very much to them. Mom is our chief concern. And we have to attend to mom because she's the one that just lost the baby. And we don't really spend much time with dad. We don't Dad's probably not going to have much of a conversation with us anyway, and we really don't know him. And if the situation gets tense, we could get in an argument, and he might be in some gang or something. And we just don't want to get too involved with him. Besides, who knows how long they're going to stick around? So those were the kind of messages that I heard. That was probably about 15 years ago. And it was very disheartening to see that kind of view, which means that we need to reach out more, and we need to speak up more, and we need to get visible more. What would you say about that, Josh?
I agree, we do. And I think it's a well-rounded issue. I think that it goes from I know this platform being the OEC, I think it's really important that a lot of literature, a lot of books that are being dispersed to families create more narrative of father presence and representation. I think that it starts at a young age. Even reading to children, finding a book that has a father and father figures on the book cover, right, is important. Same thing with doctors' offices. Making it a mandate, like, hey, is the father available? We need his signature, right? School purposes, both parents, or not just moms, but dads too. I think that it's important overall. It's important, and I think that the advocating doesn't just start with us, but it just starts off with us being able to plant the seed and water it in different areas in which we network with. I think
Great.
is really important as well.
Great. Abdul, can you add to that?
Yeah, I think for the last like let's say 2 years, I've been doing a fatherhood monologues workshop.
Yeah,
with
great stuff.
with DCF, right? And the purpose of the workshop with DCF is to make them think about their father, their relationship with their father. I think that we might need to go back with those doctors because to lose a child, of course, mom has you know her pain and for the loss because she carried the child. But just like I said before, the fathers are also imagining and thinking about what it's going to be like to be a father. We're preparing ourselves. We're going to the appointments. We're excited about what's next. And I couldn't even imagine that loss. And I mean, that was kind of like what I was saying about why it's such an amazing thing to be a father. But imagine, I can't even imagine coming out of the hospital when you were preparing for this day all this time for 9 months, and then you go in and you leave without the child.
Yeah.
And not just because of some relationship issue with you and mom, but because the child actually has passed away. And so to not get somebody to speak to that father, to console that father, to support that father the same way mom is being supported, I think it's like the view of fatherhood sometimes is minimized and not seen, like we don't feel the pain, like we don't feel the hurt. And so I feel like it's definitely like sometimes I think people have an old school way of thinking. You know, like we're back in a different time period of how fathers operated. Like they're just gonna get up the next day and go to work. But I think that in the time we're in now, even 15 years ago, I think that the fathers that's a hard thing to carry. To
Yeah.
think, all of what you were hoping for and expecting, you never get an opportunity to do those things, and nobody checked on you. Nobody said, how are you doing? What, are you going to be okay? So I think that we definitely need more support for fathers, not only in the hospital, but in all areas of interaction with the community.
Yeah, so a few years ago, I was talking with a young man who lost his baby, and he said, not only he said I played the guitar for her, I sang to her in utero, I talked to her, she knew my voice, and he said then we lost her, and he said not only did I lose my child, but I lost the opportunity to be the dad that I didn't have. So there's some powerful emotional relationship stuff that's going on. It's not only emotional, it's also biochemical, it's hormonal. And there's some writing about it. It's called putrescence, just like adolescence, called putrescence. And there's matrescence, which is the experience that moms go through, where so many things change, not just the body, but the relationships and who I think of as myself. Those kind of things change. And that's the kind of area where we can work at to support dads going through those experiences. It just deepens in pregnancy. If dad can deepen his relationship with his mother, with the mother and his child, it foretells a lot about what's going to happen later on in terms of the development of their relationship. Anthony?
So as I'm listening, I think when I think about your question, I think there's a lot of work. A lot of work has been done in Connecticut, but there's still some work that needs to be done. And I think forums and discussions like this will really help um, allow for fathers to be more involved. Now, I just want to share something with all of you, like a personal experience, because you know, it, it, there have been times where fathers have felt like they've been pushed out of the picture at the beginning. And you speak about hospitals, so I'll share a personal experience. Prior to this position, and we have these regional felt teams. So in my region, I was sort of seen as the fatherhood guy. Now I'm going back 10 years when my son was born, and I'll do this really quickly. When he was born at Yale, um, my they came into the room on the second day, and they gave me a form they gave my wife a form to fill out. And the form says, if you want to receive books for your child for X amount of months, sign this form. So they give me the form, and my wife says, well, they give my wife the form, and then they say, well, she says, well, let my husband fill it out. So I go to fill out the form, and the form has mother's name, child's name.
Mhm.
It doesn't have a place for dad.
Yeah.
Right? That's day two. Day three, they come in with another form that says, here's this information about you, immunization records. If we want to have immunization records. My wife says, had my husband fill out the form. I go to fill out the form. It has mother's name, child's name. No place for me to put my name, right? And then we didn't know if we didn't know what we were going to have. We didn't know if we was going to have a boy or a girl. So we didn't have a name going into the hospital, right? So we come up with the name while we're in the hospital. They bring in the birth certificate. And on the birth certificate, there's no place for me to sign my name.
Mhm.
So when you ask that question, we have to think about that. And at the beginning, those in 3 days, there were three things that sort of took me out of the picture that said that I wasn't a part of this family or didn't allow me to sign my name as a father.
Mhm.
I'm the fatherhood guy, right? In my brain, I'm the fatherhood guy. I want to be here. How does that impact someone who doesn't want to be here? Another thing that who's on the fence about being there, right? I should say that on the fence. The other thing that I want to point out that you made reference to, and I think about oftentimes that doctor said to you he might be in a gang. So we also have to consider how systems and spaces see fathers of color,
Yeah.
and if they have any real value as a father, because we know what media tells us oftentimes about black and brown men, that they're not involved. When in fact, Doug, I know you preach to the choir, based on the research, we're more involved than any other group, right? But if you look at the media, if you see what's on TV, there's this notion that black and brown men don't want to be involved when that's the furthest thing from the truth. So I say all of that to say, we have to be more mindful to Josh's point about how we market, how we promote. And I know we do a great job of that in Connecticut, and kudos to Connecticut for doing it. But I think there's room for us to do more. And I think we need to put a little more energy and effort into that, so we can level out the playing field. So
Yeah.
moms and dads are seen as equals.
Yeah. Very good. So one of my programs, Paternal Prenatal Early Attachment, where I work with expectant couples, we actually do a role play about how to talk to a doctor and to give the guys the kind of a sense of how they need to advocate for themselves, for their baby, and for mom, and how to step up and speak out and ask questions and don't be afraid to like jump into the conversation. Like if the conversation is just going on between the doctor or the nurse and mom, yeah, jump in there and let your voice be heard. But that role play it gives them a good feeling about how to do it and what to say and what not to say. Josh, talk about men of color and perhaps the misconceptions that happen.
Oh wow, I think Anthony just kind of, spoke about it briefly, but it's really the whole notion that we're unavailable. Um, that we're unavailable, that we really don't care, we don't have enough time, that we're overly consumed, that even if it's a two-family household thing going on, that, he just went off and he's consumed with that family, that's all that matters to him. And all along, that father doesn't know. And or if we take it to another step, there can be um issues going on with the father and the mother no longer together. And now all of a sudden everything is in the best interest of the mom. And so the father's still trying, still fighting in the back end and doing the best that he can. But he's yet there's some walls and some, barriers that he's looking to cross, but he doesn't know how. And so I think a lot of times a lot of fathers just they don't know what they don't know. And a lot of things that they don't know is because they weren't either taught, there was no representation. Like for myself, I never had a father, no. And so I went based off of what I saw, in church, what I saw in different, community events, what I saw walking down the street. Wherever I was, that those were the perceptions for me. Like, oh, that's what it's like to have the dad there. Oh, okay, that's cool. All right, dad teaching how to write about. Oh, that's cool. So a lot of times, we only can go based off of our own experiences, but
Mhm.
many of times I think people are just will label it that they don't care. Like us as Black brown fathers don't care. We do care. I
Mhm.
know I do, and I believe if I could speak for Abdul and for Anthony and for yourself, we care.
Yeah,
Everything about our children, their development, their growth from start to infinity. We care.
good. So, have you done work with fathers and fatherhood groups, facilitated conversations?
Personally, yes, I have. I do a lot of different fatherhood initiatives, like within local community stuff. Um, I know the Office of Early Childhood, the Parent Cabinet has given me a great opportunity to serve in that capacity. I've done some co-work with PLTI and NPLI along with 2Gen. And so some of those initiatives have helped to support with advocating, elevating the voice of fatherhood and the importance of representation.
And say a little bit more, maybe even a personal experience that you may have had with a dad where your work has created an environment for him to get an epiphany.
Um, I would say that the most recent example that I had was a gentleman that I met shortly at the fatherhood conference. He had shared about a dispute that had happened, a false allegation with a mother, who said that he had hit her and he didn't, and so all of a sudden everything changed. His world changed, and so he had ended up going back and forth to court, and he talked about the importance of how him showing up and looking a certain type of way had really took precedence. And I think that goes back to some of the assumptions and illusions that, us as Black brown fathers, how we show up. I think sometimes automatically we get written off. And so we talked about how when he opened up his mouth and really went to go to talk about his experience, his academic background, things had started to change. And I think that when we also talked about how he could share his voice with other fathers who have something in common, because a lot of dads, they don't know what they don't know. And I think a lot of times when we give opportunity to say, hey, listen, well, have you thought about talking to, your local churches? Have you thought about going to the barbershop? Wherever places you thrive and that you're a part of, start there and see about ways to elevate. And he was like, wow, Josh, I never thought about that. Never thought about making it that simple, that easy. I think a lot of times we think of it on a larger scale, like we have to be a part of like OEC Parent Academy, the Parent Ambassador, a nonprofit, a board of directors, but it's not, it doesn't take all of that. Sometimes it's just a general conversation that you could have in a grocery store with another dad. You could be sitting in the barbershop. You could be waiting on getting your oil change and just see, commonality, and you can share and start, building on that. And I think that planted a seed for him to know that his story matters anywhere he goes.
Good, good, good. Yeah, I do that in the supermarket sometimes. People look at me like I'm crazy, but
Oh
I'm like,
man,
Dad, good job, man. You got the kids, you're out,
yeah,
spend time with them. Good job, Dad.
that's important. It's important.
Yep. Anthony, what about you? Tell us a little bit more about your work. You do other stuff other than DCF, right? Working with dads?
Most certainly. So just this past weekend, we hosted an event where I partnered with the mayor and some of our local representatives, Representative Jerry Reyes and Victor Lopez and Sean Mosley, who are aldermen, and we came together to collectively work on an initiative to make Waterbury the most father-friendly city in the state. So, with the support of the mayor, we've been able to make some inroads in the schools and create some sort of father-friendly themed events that take place within schools. This past weekend, we did an initiative for Black and Brown fathers around health and wellness. Abdul was one of our. Abdul actually told his story about his health and wellness, and we had a really good turnout. And we also do what we call the Talk Back series. So about every 6 weeks, we find a different location, be it the church, Trinity Health, Cirque. The community providers in the area will host an event, and we'll have fathers from the community just come in and just talk about their needs and what it means to be a father and how they can support each other. It's a it's been gratifying to create these spaces for men to come together and create the social capital that some of them didn't have, right?
Mm,
So many of them felt as if they were in it alone and didn't understand that, the guy that lives a couple of blocks over may be going through something similar or may be the person who can support you getting you to work. So it's been very encouraging to create this group of men who are really focusing on being the best dads that they can be, not only for their kids but for the community. So
mm,
I'm really proud of doing that work. We've been doing it for about a year now. We've had some really great results, and the local politicians have really bought in to what we're doing, and more importantly, fathers in the community have
mm.
bought in. So I'm really proud. It's one of those grassroots, no sort of funding attached to it. We just
Yeah.
find a way to come together and get things done. And I think it's making a difference. And the last thing that I'll say is for me as a father, the legacy piece is I get to have my son tag along everywhere I go.
Yeah.
So he gets to see the work that I'm putting in because there's work that I get paid for, and it's a blessing. I wake up every single day saying I got the best job in the world, right? Every single day. But when I'm off the clock, if I believe in it, it shouldn't stop. So for me, the work stops even after I quote unquote punch out because there's a lot of work that needs to be done, particularly in this community where there's some struggles. And the hope is that by building up this coalition of men, they will pour back into the city as fathers and father figures and curb some of the issues that we see in the city of Waterbury. So that's really the hope behind this father-friendly initiative that we're pulling together in the city.
Excellent. Excellent. Abdul?
Yeah, I try to stay busy with this fatherhood work. Over the years, we've done a little bit of everything. We've done, cookouts, we've done daddy-daughter dances. We got into the men's health stuff, with DCF. I'm doing training and consultation almost, on a daily basis with them. Over probably like over 1,000 people have done the Fatherhood Monologues workshop. We've done plays with the Fatherhood Monologue. I'll say like we had a collaboration with OEC where we went into the prison and we did our Fatherhood Monologue workshop. It's the most powerful show that nobody's ever going to see. But it was, we had 15 men. Part of that, they wrote their stories about being a father or being fathered. And I mean, over 8 weeks, they really practiced. And, I love being in the presence of fathers.
Yeah.
And I recognize, there's different levels, right? There's some fathers that are trying, they just getting started, they trying to figure it out, they want to do better, but they're in the room. And it's something about being in the room. You, Anthony, I'm always like watching you guys. I'll steal something so quick, just because it's something good, something positive. And so I think that when I started doing fatherhood work 20 years ago, it was like, nobody was really interested that much. It was kind of like, what are you talking about, fatherhood? But the progress we've made over the last 20 years, where we actually got a seat at the table now, and people are starting to listen, and people are wanting to have programs like this and other things. I feel very excited about what we'll do over the next 5 years, over the next 10 years, and into the future, because the movement is alive and well, and I think that we have a lot of great people. I know at one point, Doug, you might have been holding the flag by yourself, but it's a lot of us coming up, that are holding that flag and want to get out there and make sure that fathers are included, fathers are seen as important to the process, and even whether they're with mom or not with mom, they still have a role in the bringing up development of their children. And so this summer we've been planning some stuff. We want to do like we're always trying to do men's health as well, because we recognize fatherhood is a part of being a man. And so like, we're looking deeper into health, because a lot of fathers end up not being able to be the father they want to be because they aren't taking care of themselves. And so we're kind of like starting. I mean, Anthony just had his event. I'm having my men's health and wellness weekend in June, because we want to make sure that they know what's going on with their heart. They know what's going on with their bodies, because if they don't, they know how to rest and relax. Because if they don't, they can't get out there and run around with their kids. They can't get to the event. And so, fatherhood is an action thing. It's not just a sit around and point, tell kids to do stuff. No, you got to get involved and be there. And in order to do that, I see that a few of us on this call, we got some grayness in our beards. The kids, even though they're getting older, Anthony got a 10-year-old. He got to get out there and run around. So I think that Josh got a 3-year-old. He got some work to do, man. My kids are older, but the grandkids come right after it. Just when you think you can sit on the couch, here comes little Cairo, and now it goes on and on. And so, we're constantly doing something, trying to speak, train, consult, but put fatherhood in the front. If I'm in a meeting and somebody doing too much talking about moms and stuff, my job is actually to say, hey, so we're going to talk about dad at any point in this conversation. And so just making sure that it's out there so that they don't forget about that. We don't want to forget about that.
Yeah. So it's so great to have these conversations, and to be able to talk with men and sit in a room with men and have conversations with them and watch that evolution, that epiphany that takes place where you can see it in their faces, you can see it in their expressions, you can see it in their eyes, where they wake up to something new and they realize that they have something different to do, and there's a new sense of awareness that runs deep inside them that they're able to experience. When we're little boys, we get those messages from family, from culture, don't cry, man up, and we end up going from this tender, vulnerable, connected, loving child into so-called manhood, where the most we can do is provide and protect, when that soft side, that tenderness, is exactly what children need. So to make that evolution back to that tender spot within myself is so important if I'm going to connect with kids and be sensitive as to what their needs are. So we got to go back and examine our own childhood, right? Figure out what's going on. That's called intimacy, into me see. You just like open it up and take a look on the inside and start weighing things over and figure out what I need to do. And to be curious enough to do it, we need to raise our children so that they can be curious. So we create this environment that's easy for them to ask questions and be curious. And curiosity leads to exploration, which leads to learning. And those kind of things are really important in the development of good manhood skills. I love your monologue stuff, man. That stuff is deep, deep, deep. Well, I think we're pretty much out of time. You have some final words for us, Abdul, and then Anthony, and then Josh.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, hopefully everybody on the call today, when you go back, my challenge, I like to leave people with a challenge. Today, contact the father. And if you don't have a father that you in your job that you do, contact your father. Contact your husband. Tell your husband he's doing a good job. If you're a father on the call, reach out to somebody that you see might be struggling. Give them a little support, because if you ever going to do anything in this life, if you ever going to do anything in this life and you want to be successful at it, it's being a father. If you can have fathers be successful, our whole world changes. It changes everything. You get some good children, they grow up, they have good children, and the process goes on and on.
Yes.
So contact the father today. Over to you, Anthony.
So I would say it's always hard to follow Abdul. Doug, I don't know why you did that. But what I will say is, especially those of us who work in systems, just don't give up.
Yeah.
Don't give up on dads. Oftentimes that the presentation, maybe the way they look, maybe the way they speak, maybe the way they interact can be a deterrent, and sometimes it might even be scary. We get it. I get it. But there's so much value in fathers. And you asked a question earlier, Doug, to Josh about an epiphany. And I'll just share this really, really quickly because I know we're out of time. Years ago in the department, we created this brochure. And the brochure was the brochure, it's the statistics that we all know, how the outcomes for children, right? And I won't recite them, but we all know what those statistics are. And one of the things we used to do is we would give that brochure to mothers who were quote unquote gatekeepers and fathers who weren't as actively involved. And I can recall circumstances and situations where mothers saw those statistics. And the spiel is simple. I'm not saying this is going to happen to your child, but here's what the statistics say happens when a father is not involved in a child's life.
Yeah.
So it may not happen to your child, but statistically, this could happen. So I want to leave this with you, and I want you to think about the decision that you're making in terms of gatekeeping because you and dad don't get along. And then vice versa for dad. Look at what the statistics say. Would you want this for any child? More or less your child. And if not, maybe you may want to make a different choice in the decision. And the same thing is applicable to the workforce. Dads need to be involved. So, that's my message all the way around. Whether it's mom, don't give up on the dad. If you're dad, don't give up on yourself. And if you work in the system, please don't give up on dad. Continue to encourage him to be involved in some capacity because our children need their fathers present. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Josh?
Man, listen, the fellas have spoken. I'll just say intentionality. Let's just flow with intentionality.
Yeah.
And let's continue to prioritize fatherhood. It's important.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Great. I love you guys, man. Appreciate it. Great
Love you
conversation.
most, Doug.
Yep. And certainly much love for the folks that put this together. Lorna, Jennifer, Beth Bai, Jody, Brandon. We couldn't do this work well without the support of some fantastic women who were involved in this work. So much appreciated for what they do as well.
Well, Doug, the appreciation goes to you and your wonderful team of panelists, Abdul, Anthony, Josh. Thank you so very much for giving some quite powerful, moving, real talk words. The words that you've shared and the level of intimacy in which you shared them. And I appreciate, Doug, intimacy, but into me, see. I like that one. You all are phenomenal. Thank you so, so, so very much for your wonderful words of wisdom that you've shared with all of us. Thank you, Abdul, Anthony, Josh, and again, Doug. And with that, want to certainly thank all of those that have helped to make this webinar possible. Certainly want to thank Diana Reyes for giving instructions on how to access interpretation. Thank you, Paola and Louisa from NWI for providing interpretation. Thank you very much to our wonderful Commissioner Beth Bai and Commissioner Jody Hill Lilly for your welcome remarks and all that you do to support all of the efforts in regard to fatherhood and children overall throughout Connecticut. Brandon McGee, thank you for your powerful, powerful keynote message. I'm struck by your words saying mentorship is a form of modern fatherhood. Thank you for not allowing us to recognize the important role of fathers and mentors as well. Thank you for all that you do, Brandon McGee. And we certainly want to thank the Lartney Wellness Group for the video that was shared with all of you on the important role that fathers play in a child's growth and development. Certainly cannot continue on without thanking Jennifer Wilder with the Office of Early Childhood, for she certainly is the voice within OEC that reminds all of us of the importance of do not forget fathers and make sure fathers are involved at the table, and so helps to echo that message throughout Connecticut as well. Jennifer, thank you so much for all that you do. And Doug, I know you said don't call you Mr. Doug, but I just feel I must say Mr. Doug Edwards. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for facilitating this powerful panel discussion and all that you do in the community to support and uplift fathers. And again, to our wonderful panelists, Abdul, Anthony, and Josh, thank you all so much for all that you do to speak truth, to lead by example, and to remind all of us of the power of fathers and father figures. I'm just struck by your words, Abdul. Fatherhood is an action thing. And Doug, you describing and talking about presence over present. Thank you so much. And also, Josh, intimacy, intentionality, that is, intentionality, intentionality. And Anthony, be present from the beginning to forever, for there is no end. Thank you all collectively for your voices, reminding us all of the power that fathers and father figures have in our child's development. And certainly want to thank our team behind the scene. Jen Ide, thank you for helping to manage and do all things Zoom. You are wonderful. And to Team O'Donnell for recording this webinar and helping us to make final edits. And of course, to UConn School of Social Work Innovation Institute for supporting our efforts as it pertains to feedback from this webinar. And what we mean by feedback is we're going to share with you a link to complete a feedback survey. Please do so. We certainly want to hear from you, your thoughts on this webinar, so it can help us as we continue to move forward with webinars. So please do respond to the survey that will be shared with all of you. And last, but certainly not least, want to thank all of you that are viewing this webinar, whether you are viewing it live or a recording. We thank you so much for taking the time out of your day or whatever time of day you may be viewing this to be a part of this webinar and to recognize the important role that fathers play in all of our lives. Thank you so much for all that you do day in and day out. Until we come together again, please all be well and take care. Thank you.